But because each of these people had these parental figures that abandoned them or rejected them, it was easy for other people to just kind of swoop in and groom them into what they want and manipulate them. Regret. We all live with things that we wished we could erase from our past, but regret actually is really important to us because hopefully with all of these traumatic experiences, we'll learn to do better, do something differently in the future. And that's why often it comes back to haunt us. This is a great scene, I feel, from Gen V that really deals with regret and how all of these traumatic experiences change who we are and the choices that we make. So let's take a look together and see if we can break down what happened and what we can do about it.
He's only 6 years old. Caleb!
The one she sent away.
Mommy! Mommy!
Kate, wait! Holy, this is a memory. I don't feel safe with her. We're in Kate's head.
You can understand that with Kate, especially after we go through something that reminds us of her past or that belief that she's not trustworthy, how her mom says, I don't feel safe with her. And now all of her friends don't feel safe with her either. And so what happens is we go through all of our past traumatic experiences and we relive, oh yeah, maybe that negative self-talk is true because of this. Maybe I am a monster. Maybe I am someone that isn't worthy to be trustworthy. Maybe I am a bad person. We go through these traumatic experiences and often they'll come back to bother us over and over again until we've actually learned to deal with them.
Why did Caleb listen to me? He never does.
I don't feel safe with her.
Okay. Why don't you come with me, Kate?
Mommy, I didn't mean to.
Hey, do you like dogs? Come with me.
And you can feel that pain of her not understanding what happened and the reaction that she reads from our parents. We often read what someone else, how they're interpreting us, how they're looking at us, and it changes the way that we feel about ourselves, especially when we're young. The memories that we make, the traumatic experiences that we go through when we're young, our brain is so plastic at that point. We have so many of these neural connections that it really programs a lot of our personality and who we become in later life and that negative self-talk of who we feared that we might be. And so it makes a lot of sense because regret is us living through the past over and over again, and it comes back to haunt us in the hopes that we'll learn from that and be kinder to ourselves because of it.
Soldier Boy? What are you doing in here?
I'm Kate's imaginary friend from when she was a kid. Boyfriend, really. I thought I had to beep off.
I love that they just threw in Soldier Boy. It is a lot of our younger years are really cringy, traumatic, and horrible, and stuff that we would never want anyone else to know. A lot of us would worry that if someone really knew everything about us, that they wouldn't like us. But we all have these cringy, horrible moments where we did something absolutely ridiculous, and part of that is our humanity, and of course it was Soldier Boy.
Keep your distance. And don't let her touch you.
I think that these scenes are really important because they allow us to know that even though Kate did something horrible, she's not a monster. There's reasons for why she did what she did. There's reasons why she trusted Indira so much. And that is for all of us. I think that often, especially in this day and age, we've lost a lot of our humanity. We're so easily judgmental. People are just black and white. They're just good or they're bad. And we're so much more complex than that.
You can leave us. Hello, Kate. My name's Indira.
Also, look at that door. Holy Lord. That's how much her parents do not trust who she is. And it's just so horrible to think about how many people have actually lived through that in many different ways, shapes, or forms, and the effect that it has on us afterwards, that feeling of being thrown away or disposable or invisible.
I'm not afraid of you, Kate. You don't have to wear the gloves if you don't want to. I trust you. What happened to your brother was a terrible tragedy. It was an accident. Now, I know that you think it's your fault, but it's not.
Now, many of us need to hear those words that when we're going through something that's horrible or we've been a part of something that was horrible, if it wasn't our intent to harm, and sometimes when we're not aware of what the repercussions would be, and especially for Kate, she was just a child. But we often carry that worry, that guilt, that shame of the things that we've done, and it kind of haunts us. And we fear about other people, how they're going to judge us if they found out about this also. And so it makes sense that Kate and all of her friends have hidden these things from each other, especially when you're looked up to as a superhero, as being perfect. It's a lot to have to bear and to carry.
My mother. Your mother is afraid because you are exceptionally powerful. But keeping you in here will only fuel that fear. What you need is help understanding your power.
And that's like such an important moment of her holding her hands, that I trust you enough that you're not going to hurt me. That feeling, that accepting, and that unconditionally accepting, taking that risk for someone else matters so much, because in the end, most relationships are based upon trust. And if you don't have that trust, then what is there for that foundation to be able to grow on? And for Kate, when no one trusts her, to be able to reach for Indira, and why she would believe Indira no matter what she said makes so much more sense, as she was the first person that wasn't afraid of her. And because of that, it formed this really strong bond. And since she was 10, she's been in this room, so a lot of who she is really this 10-year-old. And so because of that, she's still stuck in that mentality. She hasn't evolved being a 10-year-old girl who is so much more easily manipulated and easily molded into whatever someone else can be. And that means the same thing for her rage and anger, which makes a lot of sense to the later episodes of why she got so upset and did so many really harsh things, because she hasn't fully developed.
Yeah, we really...
Behind my back.
Seriously, Andre? You're that guy.
Well, you don't think I feel like a piece of shit? I loved her.
And that's really important, because here Andre is learning that he also has made mistakes just like Kate has. And also because he cared about someone and made mistakes and things that he didn't wish that he had done. And I think that that's the problem, is that we become so judgmental about others. And it's so quick for us to be able to kind of throw people under the bus or judge people because of their actions. And a lot of that stops us from being able to share and trust people and open up to that everyone is flawed, that we're all trying to do better, we're all trying to be better. But that is a lot of who we are. And so, especially for Kate, they were all judging and so harsh about how horrible a person Kate was. And so I think that this allowed them to show a little bit more empathy, because they all have skeletons in each of their closets that they wish that other people didn't know, because of that fear of judgment, or what people would think of them, possibly rejection or abandonment, or that everyone would think that they're the monster that they fear inside of themselves that they could be.
Jordan. What do I always say, huh? Being a hero, it's not about the glory. It's about
Sacrifice.
And that we'll all often make these choices that are self-serving, the things that will help us, the things that we want most, even at the cost of others. I think that it's really easy to always want to do the right thing or hope that we could, but all of us sometimes can make mistakes, especially when the variables, the things that matter the most. For Jordan, it is being able to achieve things, and this was a means to an end, and this was the person that could be able to believe it. So often we will believe even things that we shouldn't in order to get ahead. And it's not a great part of our humanity, but I think that we need to acknowledge, especially when we're judging other people for doing that, that sometimes we might do the same thing also.
So now I want you to promise me, as my new TA, that you will always protect me. Not a word of this to anyone.
You're making me your TA? That's how you became Brink's gatekeeper?
Of course, because you've earned it.
And it's interesting because for each of them, they lost out on their parental figures, and because of that, it was so much easier to manipulate them. All of us need to have someone that we can look up to, that will protect us, that will love us in our own want or hope unconditionally. But because each case, each of these people had these parental figures that abandoned them or rejected them or were no longer there. It was easy for other people to just kind of swoop in and groom them into what they want and manipulate them. And that's a really strong cautionary tale. Why having these healthy parenting techniques are so very important, because it's protective to your children so that they won't just kind of jump to the next person that will show them affection or care. All of us want that. It's innate to us to want to be loved and affirmed and validated.
You knew Golden Boy attacked Brink before.
I don't know what I knew.
Looks like you knew a lot.
We could have stopped everything right here. But instead, we're a TA, saving our own.
I love Brink. He was good. Or not.
It's so horrible because for each of them, they genuinely loved and cared for the people that they were doing this for. That a lot of times, that was how that they were manipulated, that they believed in this thing because they were lacking this. And because of that, when you're lacking something so deeply, you'll kind of take anything to fill that place, even if it isn't justified, even if it isn't good enough, even if it's flawed.
But he was good to us.
He was nice to us. Nice is all it takes for us to let someone get royally. You're a coward. And you always will be.
And that's Jordan's label that Jordan keeps on feeling, that they'll be a coward, that when push comes to shove, they're not going to be able to come up to the plate. And that will be the thing that they play over and over in their head as their regretful moments. Now, it isn't a horrible thing if you can learn from it, accept it, and forgive yourself. But that's the thing. It's really hard when you've done something that you wished you didn't, that you regret something, to be able to forgive, to be able to move on, to be able to do something better. And that's why we have all of these traumatic moments that can come back to us in the thoughts of what we could have done, what we should have done, and to be able to not feel that shame or that guilt, to be able to move on from it. It also tells us that we're human, and hopefully we can use that to be more forgiving and understanding when other people make mistakes as well.
Annabeth. You killed them.
I didn't mean to.
You tell everyone you lost control, but you didn't. You were angry that they barged in, and everything that happened because you wanted it to.
And in this scene, I think it's really fitting because often when we replay these memories, it's that limbic part, that child part of us that's replaying them and saying the words. She's saying the things that she fears to herself. And that's what we do. We relive these traumatic moments over and over, saying these things to ourselves. And that's why it's really effective if we actually journal it out and go through what are the negative thoughts that come out from this trauma. And then what do you do about it? What would you say to someone else that you loved or you cared about, or a child that went through what you went through? What do you need to hear from yourself?
No matter how hard you try to be a hero, always be a murderer to me. I never forgive you. And you shouldn't either.
I ruined everything.
Like you, Kate! You told me it wasn't my fault!
And I loved that she realized that even in this traumatic moment when she's going through all of the fears that she placed to herself, that she knew that they were also here with Kate, that this is also what Kate's going through, that Kate also fears that she's a monster, that this power we have, and often the things that make us wonderful and great can also be the worst parts of us. It's not really the tool that we have, but the way that we wield it. And that sometimes we make mistakes without knowing it and wanting it, and that ability to forgive ourselves is what we need in order to go forward. Because if not, we can become this self-fulfilling prophecy where we are going to relive our mistakes because who the hell cares? We're irredeemable, so who cares anyways? I might as well just throw everything to the wind and stop trying. And that hopelessness can be really daunting and heavy and cause depression and anxiety and self-hatred. I think that everyone here goes through a little bit of self-hatred, and then because of that goes through ways of denial to try to get away from it, or numbing themselves through all of these different maladaptive coping mechanisms.
None of this is our fault.
Your mom and dad wasn't your fault.
I'm not a monster.
Your parents shot you up with a dangerous drug when you were a baby to make a buck off you.
And that's the thing also, is that thought of that their parents also had a say in this. They shot them up as babies and didn't let them know that this could happen, and didn't make sure that they would be safe, not knowing which way that their powers would manifest. And yet each child carries the guilt, which we often do. We carry the guilt of whatever happens in our family, believing that it must be our fault, and it isn't. And that need for forgiveness and understanding is where all of the healing comes in. If you're stressed about having to lie on the internet to protect your identity, or worried that someone's going to read everything that you've been doing online and send it out there, you don't have to worry anymore with today's sponsor, Incogni. Every week we're hearing about various data breaches from various institutions that are leaking out our data, and it's really hard to tell the level and the scope of what is out there that has your face on it. And we end up with all of these data brokers and websites that sell our data to secondary sources. It seems like we've just become numb to this, and we just lie down and accept it. And I get it, it's overwhelming. What do you do? How do you chase down every single place that has your personal information? And then when you find it, what can you do about it? It could be your bank number, your home address, or even the things that you purchase. Yes, your information is private, but it has a value, and it should stay private. A lot of people say to me that it just doesn't matter. There's too much out there. There's nothing you can do about it. And it might just end up being spam calls, but it can end up being much worse. It can end up being doxxed or having your identity stolen. So this is not just something that we should allow to have happen. And I know that it can be really scary, but what if I told you that you have your own soup that you can use to fight to get rid of these supervillains that have your information and are selling them on the net? The cool part about having this soup, Incogni, that fights for you is that you can actually watch and see them seek and wipe out all of this information from the map. Yes, one by one, poof, almost like it was never there in the first place. So you don't need to take V in order to fight back. Just get Incogni and let them battle for you. So you can sit back, relax, as your information is kept private as it's supposed to be. Incogni will also send letters and continue to send this information until these takedowns happen on your behalf. Seeking out where all this information is located and making sure all the information that you don't want out there in the hands of whatever supervillains might want to take them and sell them be wiped from the net. So if you want to give Incogni a try, just click on the link below and get 60% off just by clicking the link below. Or you can head on over to incogni.com/Georgia Dow. And clicking on that link really does help support this channel, so thank you, and thank you to Incogni for supporting this video. So this is a little bit of my take on Gen V and how they dealt with so beautifully traumatic memories, and that feeling of blame and the reasons for why we do the things that we do. I think that there was a lot of beauty in the forgiveness that came with it, and understanding that everyone has things that we regret in our past. You can let me know what your thoughts were on this episode in the comments below, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.